The following is a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comey Media Incorporated.
Browns quarterback Kenny Pickett believes that his year in Philadelphia showed him how it's supposed to be as an NFL starting quarterback. Do you believe he'll prove his words to be true? Exceptionally high demand crashes NFL London ticketing system. And New England Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel is very outspoken in his words for Stefon Diggs in his recent viral video. All that and more on episode 86 of Total Football Talk. Welcome, one and all. It's that time again. We're back for Total Football Talk action. I'm your host, Drew Willingham, here solo this week. My co-host, Cole Johnson, is taking the week off. My heart goes out to him, condolences to him and his family for the loss of his grandmother, who lived to be 98 years old. It's absolutely remarkable. And it's great that he had the amount of time that he had with her. And, I remember what it was like losing my grandparents back in the day. And you just think about the flow of memories that come through, the good memories, the good times, the good cooking. And that's some things we talked about earlier, but we'll leave all that stuff to the side. But wishing, well wishes to my man Cole Johnson and his family right now, and hope to see him back here in the near future, next week or the week after, in the coming time. That he needs to grieve for, the loss of his grandmother, tough times. But my heart goes out with him and wishing him very well. We do have a very special guest today for hour number 2, and that's Ryan McCarthy will be here. But that'll be to discuss the CFL and NFL action. But for hour number 1 with me, we're going to discuss the UFL and Week 9 action that we just saw from this past weekend, as well as a preview for this upcoming weekend's action for the final week of UFL for Week 10. Ryan will be here. We'll be previewing CFL Week 1, which starts next week, and discussing some offseason stuff within the NFL during hour 2. So it will not just be me talking by myself today, thankfully. Started a little bit late today due to some personal reasons myself, but wanted to make sure we got episode 86 in here. And Ryan's definitely taking the time to be here with us today to discuss some great football stuff. So looking forward to that this afternoon. And Sick Diggy's in the house saying, "What's good, everybody?" Well, what's good with you there, Sick? All the way from Norway there, sir. And definitely rest in peace to Cole's grandmother, absolutely. And condolences to the family, says Sick Diggy. And shout to him. He'll absolutely love that. And I'll make sure I pass this on. He'll see this when he sees the episode as well. But right here and now, when it comes to episode 86, we have a lot to discuss here. Looking forward to discussing it with Ryan. Looking forward to discussing it with when Cole gets back, the things that he missed, and getting him caught up on what we discussed here with this episode and much more down the pike. Here we go with episode 86 as we are streaming right now. Let's go ahead and take this into the opening drive and discuss Week 9 action in the UFL.
All right, let's go. We got trips right at 42, 989 on 2. Ready? Ready.
Here with the Week 9 action. Let's go ahead and start it off with the first game that we're going to discuss. Pretty dumpster Pelican-esque game, if you ask me. 30-12. Renegades absolutely mollywopped the Showboats in this game. Renegades improved to 4-5, and Cole and I were discussing it last week. If the Renegades and the Roughnecks, who were both 3-5 at that time, could win the next 2 games to end the season, that would be a great way to end it based on the troubles that they faced throughout this 2025 year. But for them to get to 4-5, one game away from hitting 500 with the last game of the year on the line, that's absolutely great to see. Now, can they do that with the upcoming week? We'll discuss that more. But this game right here with Week 9's action, the 30-12 game, was absolutely dumpster Pelican-esque from the start. Because the first quarter, you had 2 punts by the Showboats as well as a punt by the Renegades. That's all the action was for the first quarter. For the second quarter, the Renegades got on the board with a field goal. The Showboats on the next drive would have a fumble just after 3 plays in. They'd have a total of 11 yards on that drive, but they would fumble that. And the Renegades would then take it in for a touchdown 3 plays later. The Showboats would answer, though, to make it a 9-6 game on a touchdown by failing to get the extra point, though. But they would only be down 9-6 with 2:09 left in the second quarter. The Renegades would answer with the field goal, followed by the field goal by the Showboats, which would make it a 12-9 game going into halftime. At halftime, it looked like a game, but in the next half, the Renegades would absolutely beat them down, as you would have a punt by the Showboats after they would have the first drive going into the second half. Then they would have a field goal as the other team would then punt it away as well, back to the Renegades would. It would be a tied-up game, 12-12, and that would be the closest we would see to the Showboats having a chance to win this game. After that, it was all Renegades. Renegades scored a touchdown on the next drive, and there would be a Luis Perez pass deep right for a 41-yard dart to good old Vaughns on the side for a 41-yard touchdown. And then a 2-point conversion would make this an absolute game that they would look back on and say, hey, we're winning 18-12. What are we going to do with this? Oh, we're just going to take another interception away from the Showboats and take it in for a touchdown on that next drive. They'd be up 24-12. After that, the Renegades would score one more touchdown later in the game with 3 minutes left to go up 30-12. Luis Perez, let's take a look at what he did in this game right here. 206 passing yards with 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns. You had Tyler Vaughns with that 41-yard dart that he caught for 8 receptions, 107 yards on the day and a touchdown. Deontay Burnett would have 4 receptions for 42 yards and a touchdown as well. The Renegades defense was definitely big for them on that day. They had 5 sacks with an interception by Donald Payne. E.J. Perry would have 89 passing yards, along with Dresser Wynn's 83 passing yards and an interception for the Showboats, would absolutely display how much they totally sucked on this day. Showboats running backs would total 42 rushing yards on 20 attempts with a touchdown by Jalen Jackson, the only touchdown for them on the day. Showboats defense would have two sacks on the day, but beyond that, they absolutely were terrible, the Showboats were. 30-12, they fall to 2-7. Last year, they were 1-8 at week 9, so I guess it's an improvement, but still, this year, they had 2 nice wins, but they've had 7 terrible losses, and that's how we end week 9 for the Arlington Renegades. I voted this as the dumpster fire of the week, potentially. But we have another game that surpassed that. And we're going to go ahead and talk about that one here and now with the next game that we have. And for the next game that we have to talk about St. Louis Battlehawks and the San Antonio Brahmas. The beatdown that we saw in this game. This right here, I had voted as the dumpster fire of the week, because that's exactly what it was. When you watch this game, your head was absolutely on fire along with this dumpster. I expletive you not, okay? And you can fill in that expletive with whatever you want, but I expletive you not, okay? Right here and now. The St. Louis Battlehawks beat them 39-13 in this game. Max Duggan, 133 passing yards with a touchdown, along with Brandon Silver's 100 passing yards with a touchdown as well. Kayvon Latula's 8 carries for 66 yards with the touchdown on the ground were absolutely big for this Battlehawks team on this day. Jarvian Howard had 12 carries as well for 60 yards and a touchdown, along with Ja'Cour Pearson, 6 receptions for 71 yards on the day, and Hakeem Butler, who's a former MVP of the league, still with the Battlehawks, have 5 receptions for 66 yards and a receiving touchdown. The Battlehawks defense only mustered up 1 sack, but they did have a fumble recovery and a touchdown by Micah Abraham. So their defense did show up on this day for them and helped keep it a pretty much a 26-point contest as far as the deficit goes. But you have a team right here in the Battlehawks that has a new quarterback this year after A.J. McCarron pretty much retiring, giving up football, and they still are absolutely dominating. They're 7-2 as a result of this game, looking good going into the playoffs, and we'll talk about that more next week, but that is already set, and I may dive into that a little bit more towards the end of this episode, but the playoffs is already set even going into Week 10, but we're going to focus on Week 9 right now and then Week 10 upcoming for the preview. But for the Battlehawks, on both sides, they're clicking on offense and defense, and they had two quarterbacks that played that both had over 100 passing yards and each a passing touchdown. So it looked good on their end to have this happen on this day. But the Brahmas continue to suffer, and they are a team that went far last year to the UFL championship game. And now, on the other side of the following season, they're 1-8. Wade Phillips, he stepped down after an 0-3 start to the 2025 season. And now we're looking at, a team that since then has gone 1-5 and has been struggling throughout. They have got to make an overhaul this offseason if they want to be competitive like they were in 2024. But they're looking at 1-8 right now through 9 weeks, as you have Kellen Mond, who continues to struggle, 103 passing yards, 4 carries for 20 yards on the day. Deshaun Corbin, 14 carries for 85 yards and a touchdown, along with Jontre Kirkland, who continues to contribute with 5 receptions for 44 yards. And the Brahmas defense pretty much barely attended this game. That's how it felt watching this game. It was absolutely terrible. It was absolutely terrible to watch. You got to take a look back at this right here, a 39-13 contest. And we'll go through it from start to finish. If we look at, we basically looked at the stats here. Let's take a look at how things were throughout the quarters now. When you look at it throughout for the play-by-play, Battlehawks started off strong with a field goal, but other than that, there was no other action throughout the first quarter. It was pretty bleak. It's 3-0 at the end of the first quarter. Now, going into the second quarter, we started to get some action here. The Battlehawks would then get a touchdown at the start of the second quarter. It would go up 9-0 at that point. A fumble on the following drive would be given up by the Brahmas, but the Battlehawks would not be able to capitalize on it, as the Brahmas would then on the next drive get a touchdown, followed by the Battlehawks getting a touchdown after that. The game would be 21-7 at that point. Brahmas would answer, though, the field goal right before the end of regulation of the first half with 12 seconds left with the field goal. It'd be up 21-10 at that point. The third quarter, the Brahmas would then add another field goal to be only down by 8 points, 21-13. Battlehawks would then answer on the next drive with another field goal to make it 24-13. Battle of mother, father, and field goals. It was just a sight to watch. It was fun to watch. Absolutely was precise. It was great. Not really, because then the Brahmas would punt on the next drive. They would be down 24-13 at the end of the third quarter and looking like the dumpster Pelican team that they truly are. At 1-7 going into this game, soon to be 1-8. Because in the fourth quarter, Battlehawks would score another touchdown to go up 32-13. At that point, you'd think they'd take their foot off the gas, but not necessarily, because the Brahmas, after that, would only punt it away, give it up on 4 downs by not converting on the fourth down, turnover on downs. And the Battlehawks would score a touchdown with just a few minutes left in the game to go up 39-13. Absolutely dumpster Pelican-esque play. That's why it's my dumpster fire pick of the week for a game of the week that was an absolute dumpster fire to watch. When you look at the San Antonio Brahmas, this year they've been primed and ready to take the... I tell you what, it's a depressing sight to watch, but we only have one more week to watch this San Antonio Brahmas team absolutely stink it up out here in these streams. We got 2 more games to look at as we review this past week in UFL action. And the next game that we have to take a look at is a game between a team that we thought would take a pretty easy win, or maybe it was going to be a competitive one because the other teams put up fight, but they gave us the upset. We got to go with our upset pick of the week right here for week 9. The DC Defenders losing to the Houston Roughnecks, who came into this game 3-5 with no playoffs to play for. DC Defenders already qualified for the playoffs, but I guess there was their mentality they didn't want to get anybody hurt. And they sat Jordan Ta'amu down pretty early, but we'll talk more about that here in a minute. But between these two teams, it's why I have this as the upset of the week, because the Roughnecks, they have been a competitive team this year, but they weren't expected to come in here and take the win. And the DC Defenders were not necessarily expected to take when you look at this for what it is, I have to label it as this. All right, my click of the button might have been a minute too late, but hey, I got it in there because it's the upset of the week right here for week 9 as the DC Defenders took the nasty. And fall to 6-3 for the Houston Roughnecks. Jalen McClendon continues to show flashes of potential NFL greatness, and I don't say that lightly. I think he could slot into a team that absolutely needs a starting quarterback. McClendon has been doing nice things here in the UFL. He had 232 passing yards in this game, 2 touchdowns, 9 carries for 23 yards on the ground as well. But those 2 passing touchdowns and no interceptions absolutely looked great for him on this day. Kiki Chisholm also added 3 receptions for 34 yards and caught both of those 2 touchdown passes that McClendon threw for those scores to go up in this game. Justin Hall had 10 receptions for 126 yards on the day. Lorenzo Lingard had 8 carries for 80 yards and a rushing touchdown as well. And Chris Blewett, who usually blows it out there as the field goal kicker, was 1-1 on the day. He had the go-ahead score to where they were up 24-21 by the end of this game. Blewett didn't blow it. He did his job out here in week 9. Jordan Ta'amu had 165 passing yards and a touchdown pass as well. But Mike DeLelio had 206 passing yards and a touchdown as he took over pretty much for the second half and the majority of the game, as they were pretty much saving Jordan Ta'amu for the playoffs. Brandon Smith, 2 receptions for 51 yards on the day with a touchdown. Was absolutely nice to see, along with Vincent Smith, with this 1 reception for 43 yards and a touchdown. Deion Jackson had 10 carries for 57 yards and a rushing touchdown as well. But besides those 3 touchdowns right there, they couldn't get the mustered up thing that they needed with that go-ahead or tying field goal, because Matt McCrane missed a 43-yard field goal attempt in the third quarter. He couldn't get the job done. He didn't show up for his assignment, and that's why they lost 24-21 for the upset of the week. When we look at this game right here, I'm not going to spend too much time analyzing it because it was expected. It was expected for this team right here to kind of take their foot off the gas a little bit in the Defenders, because they have to look forward to the playoffs that are coming up. They are a lock to be participating in the XFL Conference Championship game, and the winner of that goes to the UFL Championship. It's a small playoff run for the UFL playoffs, but hey, you need everybody ready, because after this weekend, you got 2 weeks. Well, after this week, it's do or die next week, pretty much, because next week is the playoffs, as well as the beginning of CFL week 1 after, this week 10. I'm not talking about next weekend as in right now. I'm talking about the following weekend, because we're in the weekend right now. It's Friday afternoon. But right here and now, the DC Defenders, they can afford to lose the next regular season game or so too, because it's already set where they're going to be playing. It's already a lock. They just want to have everybody healthy. I don't blame them for taking their foot off the gas a little bit, But at the same time, you don't want to sit them too much because we've seen rusty teams go into playoff runs before in other leagues, and it didn't quite work out in their favor. Let's go ahead and see what comments we got out here. We got some from Sick Diggy out here in the live chat. Says there's go ahead and expand my screen here. My bad. There's always that one team in the league that inhabits the basement for that one season. In this case, it's the Memphis Showboats. Yes, the inhabits in the basement that season. And it is absolutely them and the San Antonio Brahmas. They absolutely are terrible today. They're bad. They're so bad. The regular season's end can't come soon enough for the Memphis Showboats. I mean, it can't. Neither them or the San Antonio Brahmas. It's looking pretty rough out here in these streams. We are live right now as I'll click the button right here so that way you know, because we are streaming live for episode 86. So if you get your comments down there in the live chat, I will bring them up here on the screen, as I do have lots of things to discuss here within the world of the NFL and the CFL and the UFL today with you, as well as with our guest later on that I will have some more awesome graphics to click on when that individual is here. But right now, while it's just me, episode 86, bring in some things into the comments section, and I will bring them up here live on the screen. But with that being said, we've discussed the 3 games out of 4. We still have one more to go here for this Week 9 recap of the UFL action. And with that, we have to take it to a pick that you know, and I know, everybody else who's seen before and after knows, is the game of the week. And our game of the week pick that we have for this week is the Michigan Panthers, who were on the road to take on the Birmingham Stallions. They did lose 26-22. Both of these teams will face each other again in the playoffs, as they are guaranteed to face off one-on-one in the USFL conference game to decide who goes to the UFL championship game. And this was big because the winner of this game determined who had the home field advantage. And that will be the Birmingham Stallions here, who win this game 6-3. I mean, win this game, and they are both now 6-3 as a result of this game. So it definitely helped out their cause. Jamar Smith, MVP of the game, 307 passing yards with 2 touchdown passes as well. No turnovers, 7 carries for 30 yards on the ground as well. Larry Roundtree III added 3 carries on the ground for only 21 yards, but 2 of those carries were for touchdowns, and they were in the red zone, which helped them out big time with getting those scores for this 26-22 contest. The Stallions defense added 2 sacks on the day. Not too much, but they did have some help in the receiving game on offense, though, as Cade Johnson had 3 receptions for 82 yards, and Deion Kane had 4 receptions for 55 yards, as well as hauling in those 2 touchdown passes by Jamar Smith. Danny Etling from the Michigan Panthers, though, 236 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 3 carries on the ground for 15 yards, but he had no turnovers. So I look at that as a big win for them. That's why they were able to keep this game close until the end. COC Mariner had 5 receptions for 115 yards and a receiving touchdown, along with Gunnar Oaks, who didn't put up much production. He only had 1 reception. It was for only 6 yards, but it was for a receiving touchdown. BT Potter, though, missed a field goal that could have shifted the momentum for this team, as he was 1 of 2 for field goals on the day, and the team did lose by 4 points. So if you factor in that made field goal, if he would have had it, potentially they could have shifted the momentum to where they could have made an extra point and another touchdown and won this game. But unfortunately, it didn't win. It didn't look to be promising for them, as the Stallions had the momentum throughout this game. You could just feel it. They were clicking on all cylinders. They needed this win big for the momentum for them to go into the playoffs. They've been struggling this year, which is why even though 6-3 doesn't look bad, they were struggling throughout this year, and we've been talking about it throughout this season. They were lucky to get this win, in my opinion, based on the momentum that they had coming in. When you look at things from the play-by-play, things were looking pretty bleak in the first quarter because they couldn't get anything done on the ground until the second quarter, when the Michigan Panthers would score to go up 7-0. By the end of the first half, it was only a 7-7 game, as the Stallions would score with a few minutes left in the game. and they would have a tied up game. It's like a 0-0 game pretty much going into halftime when you're only at a 7-7 contest. By the end of the third quarter, the Panthers would have the lead at 16-13, but they would give it up in the fourth quarter as they would go touchdown for touchdown for touchdown. The Stallions would outduel them there, and they would go up 26-22 with just a couple minutes left in the game and hold on to win this contest. And when you look at how things have gone for both teams this year, they've kind of both had their own bumps in the road. It's been kind of tough out there for both of these teams. They've done a decent job, but they've struggled at times. They've struggled at times big to keep the momentum shifted in their favor, which is why when they lost those 3 games, both of them, they're pretty big. And the third one that was big for the Panthers happened to be this one against this team known as the Stallions. I mean, looking at it for what it is, this could be a story for what we see again in the playoffs. Could the Stallions go for their 4th consecutive title and win it? I think if they do, it's more of a sign of their actual coaching than it is their players, because they've done it with a different rotational set of offensive players between quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. Big names have been shuffled around in different places. And for what it is, they've got a really good chance to make that happen. They made the playoffs, so they're in there. All they got to do is win one game, and they're back in the UFL championship game and could win their 2nd consecutive UFL championship after winning the last 2 USFL championship games that they had for that league before merging prior to the 2024 season. So, looking at it for what it is, this is it's a pretty awesome set of circumstances for this team right here. And we now have week 10 to look forward to, which actually starts tonight at 8 o'clock on Fox. You got to look at the Battlehawks and the Defenders, which is a preview of next week of what we could see in the XFL championship game, because these 2 teams will face off. Now, if the Defenders win and the Battlehawks lose here, it doesn't matter as far as the home field because of the way the season's been throughout. The Battlehawks are hosting the game at home, and the UFL championship game is going to be in St. Louis. So regardless, the outcome will be set for that. But when it comes to the rest of what we got to look forward to for the UFL, that's the elimination of the teams after week 10. We will not have to see the teams like the Brahmas and the Showboats play anymore. I will be sad to not have to see the Renegades and the Roughnecks, because they kept fighting and clawing their way each week to where you thought had a chance. But, unfortunately, they're not going to be able to cut it this week. It's not going to happen for those teams. They're not going to get into the dance. But we could see something next year out of them. They could be a team like the Brahmas, who had a terrible 2023 season. The Brahmas, I don't think it was quite as bad as this year, but it was a bad season. And they turned it around to where in 2024, they were in the UFL championship game. So anything can happen. I think the Roughnecks and the Renegades both have a bright future. The Renegades did have a bright spot at the top when they made it to the dance and won an XFL championship not too long ago. But with this current rendition, they got some more work to do behind the scenes for this upcoming 2026 season for next year. And we'll have to see what happens in the NFL, because all that does play a part in who we see on the field in the UFL as well. So, and CFL, which we'll talk more about here in a little bit when our guest, Mr. McCuffey, joins us, and we have a special intro to click, and I'm looking forward to clicking that one because it's been a while since I've been able to click that one. But before we get to all that, and before we preview week 10 for the UFL when we come back, we have to do a few things. First of all, we got to get into who my pick for the week of Grand Champ of the Week is. Let's go ahead and take on into that one right now. Where are my dogs? Trying to do the best I can solo on that. Hopefully I did a good job. Let me know out here in the comments how I did. Grand Champ of the Week pick. It's just my pick this week. And my pick is Jamar Smith of the Birmingham Stallions. 22 of 31 of completions on attempts for the day, 307 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, had 7 rushes for 30 yards. But my most impressive stat I got to look at here is a 124.0 QBR rating. Looking at that. Quarterback rating of 124.0. Absolutely smashed it out here and served it on the team. The big old fat old nester. Absolutely. But not laughing at Jamar Smith because he absolutely crushed it. And to me, it was a total
surprise, motherfucker.
I didn't see this dude going off in this game prior to this.
What?
I mean, his performance absolutely did this to me.
Got me up.
I mean, come on. I did not predict this was going to be a thing going into this game with good old Jamar Smith. I did not see it. I did not see it here in week 9. I couldn't predict it. Absolutely did like it, though.
You like that? You like that?
I did. Clicked it a little too late, but I did do that. And no, we're not off the rails. I'm just doing this with you right now.
Let me talk to you.
Talking to you with the fact my grand champ pick of the week is Jamar Smith. QBR rating of 124.0 QB rating. Very, very nice. Looking at those numbers, led his team to a victory over the Michigan Panthers 26-22 that we just talked about in the previous segment for our pick of the game of the week. And that's why I got to go with him as my selection for what he did in leadership throughout this game as a quarterback who hasn't really played much, who just came off the street a couple weeks ago to fill a void for this team, suffering injuries, getting ready to play a playoff run and try to go for a 4th consecutive championship. Jamar Smith helping out by not messing up with the flow, getting it done, as he is my pick for grand champ of the week. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and take this into our first commercial break. But when we come back, we're going to preview Week 10 of the UFL. And then shortly after that, in about 25 minutes or so, we'll have Mr. McCoffey coming on in. 15, 20, 25 minutes or so. I got to look at my messages during the commercial break. But I will do that and get him on in here, as we will have hour 2 here shortly to discuss CFL action. See you on the other side of this first commercial break.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On 2, on 2, on 2. Ready? Break.
We're just getting started. Total Football Talk will return right after this. Whether it's news, the largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant, weather, devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States, inspiration, a breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy and now begins a future one of matrimony or sports. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network, in association with Comey Media Incorporated, proudly present The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. Live every weekday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. Hey, Eagles fan. Join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles Elite Podcast. every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and other podcast outlets.
Everything Boston. I love you, morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Go yourself again, Jason.
That's right. I took one because of the commercial break I clicked was the wrong one, but it's all good. It comes to having a little fun here for the solo edition of Total Football Talk, not extra, but episode 86. Here's Jason Kelce suggests a creative way to decide the USA football team for the 2028 Olympics. I am your host, Drew Willingham, as experiencing a little bit of technical difficulties here, but I'm back. Got the graphics up on the screen. Everything's ready to rock out here, skate or die. Now, when it comes to this, we've got a bunch of things to discuss throughout this episode as we've already recapped UFL's Week 9. Let's go ahead and take it to UFL Week 10 and preview that for our next segment here and now.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
Week 10 action. We got some things to click on now, right here. Is UFL Week 10 action. The St. Louis Battlehawks play the DC Defenders tonight, this Friday, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. That is the game of the week, potentially. We could see, as this could be two teams that absolutely duke it out the following week in the UFL playoffs for the XFL Conference Finals Championship. But tonight, on May 30th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox, St. Louis Battlehawks 7-2 are on the road in D.C. to face the Defenders. The Defenders having a little bit of a slump, getting things tossed around recently as you look at what happened this past week in their loss to the Roughnecks. And it was a game that we didn't necessarily think was going to go down in that manner, but it did. And right here and now, when we look at this game, the St. Louis Battlehawks this Friday night, I think they have a really good chance with the momentum that they have to finish the season at 8-2 with the game on the road against the DC Defenders. DC's got to step up on the defense because they have struggled a little bit on offense, and defense has been giving up a decent amount of points, which is why they lost to the Roughnecks this past week. I got to say, right here and now, Battlehawks win this game. I think they win it very close to how the Defenders lost this past week. It's going to be a 3-point contest, but I see it as like a 28-25 game at the end of it. That's my prediction for this UFL Week 10 contest between the DC Defenders and the St. Louis Battlehawks. I don't want to predict the L for these teams because I like actually watching both of them play, but unfortunately, one of them has to take the loss, and I'm predicting it to be at least a local team for me in DC, and I'm saying they take it tonight. There's only one Saturday game this week. That's the Houston Roughnecks, who are 4-5 and on the road at the Michigan Panthers, who are 6-3 on this week. I mean, one game left in the year between these two. The Roughnecks do have the momentum, and the Panthers don't really have much to play for. I mean, they're already guaranteed to play in this next round of the playoffs. So I would say that they rest some talent, and the Roughnecks have a chance to finish this out, the 5-5 record at 500 to end the year. And I'm going to actually pick the upset, and that'll probably be our upset game of the week if that does happen. And I'm going to go with the Roughnecks pulling it out and keeping with their momentum and keeping it strong, taking the win here this week, improving to 5-5. Panthers fall to 6-4, but it'll be all good because they will play in the USFL conference game to decide who goes to the UFL championship. That's my prediction there. I think it's going to be based on the fact that the Panthers sit a bunch of talent to get them rested and be ready for a playoff run. They've won a championship. It's in their DNA to get this happen. They want to upset the team that's been winning the past 3 years the following week when they play in that USFL championship. The Stallions have won 3 straight. They want to knock them off, and that's what the Panthers intend to do. And I think they take it easy at home. They're not going to try to lose, but they're not going to try too hard to get the dub at the same time. Roughnecks improved to 5-5 after this Saturday upset as our only Saturday game of the week. Then we go into good old Sunday. There are 2 games this Sunday in the UFL. We have the Arlington Renegades who are on the road against the San Antonio Brahmas. The Renegades who are just like the Roughnecks at 4-5 and out of the playoffs, but they do have pride to play for and try to improve to 500 going on out of this 2025 season. The Renegades again 4-5 on the road at the San Antonio Brahmas who are 1-8. I don't predict the Brahmas to upset them and improve to 2-8, which that would be the upset of the week if it did happen. This game is on ABC at noon on Sunday. I do have the Renegades winning this game on the road, just like the Roughnecks improving to 5-5, having 2 500 teams to end the year out. I think it would be a success for the UFL if this happens. It would be bad for the Brahmas to be 1-9, but it would be better for the Renegades to be 5-5. I just think with the talent that they have, the Brahmas don't have much to play for. I mean, they maybe with pride, yes, to try to knock off a team to 4-6. That would be the upset next week, the ultimate upset if that did happen. But I do see the Brahmas taking another loss here. There's nothing that they have done throughout this past 9-game stretch that has proven to me that they are ready for competitive football of at least the minor league level at this time. They have been absolutely falling short with Kellen Mond, who needs a lot of work during the offseason, definitely with a quarterback coach on just how to react to just certain things within the game because he has struggled as a young quarterback. He still has a chance, but he has a lot of work he has to do in order to improve because the Brahmas just have had a really tough year at 1-8. But I do see them losing this week at home to decline to 1-9. Arlington Renegades improved to 5-5, like my predicted Roughnecks prediction for the previous game. Both teams will end at 5-5 for this offseason. And I think that would be a huge success story for both teams. If this could happen, if the Roughnecks could have finished at 5-5, and if the Renegades could too. With what both teams have gone through, what this league has gone through, with the shifting of players through the last offseason, balancing things out, still a very young league with new ownership, over the past few years, getting things going and players switching teams and the way that it's ran is not like the NFL, but at the same time, it's ran for the betterment of the young talent or the older talent trying to find a gateway back into the NFL with good film to carry over from their experience in this league. That's the ultimate goal. But right here for the Brahmas, not much good film at all for them. Unfortunately, this year, if you were on this team, there's not many highlights. For the Renegades, there was. Luis Perez still getting it done for his team. And I feel like he will this week by improving to 5-5 and making things happen for this team against the Brahmas on the road at noon on Sunday. And that's my prediction for that one. For our final game of the week, for Week 10, let's discuss the 3 o'clock afternoon contest that will be on Fox. The Birmingham Stallions, who are 6-3 at this point, are on the road against the Memphis Showboats, who have been playing absolutely terrible as of late. 2-7 on the year. Keep in mind, the Memphis Showboats were also 1-9 or 1-8 at this point going into last year's Week 10 matchup as well. So they don't really have much to play for except for pride. The Birmingham Stallions don't really need to play all their starters because they are guaranteed to be in the USFL championship game the following week against the Michigan Panthers. And we could see them actually do something pretty cool and win 4 straight UFL 4 straight championships. USFL for the last 2 years and then the first 2 years of the UFL, but still 4 straight years of professional championship titles. Surviving COVID, doing that, from 2022 on, that's big from the time that these leagues came back into existence after COVID. I would have to say the Birmingham Stallions is kind of like the situation with the Panthers against the Roughnecks. They don't need to try hard to win, but because of the type of team that they're playing in the Memphis Showboats, I think the Stallions will do enough to win and try to continue to have some decent momentum going into that first round playoff that determines who goes to the UFL championship game. So Memphis Showboats fall to 2-8 on this season as a result of this game that will be Sunday at 3:00 p.m. Eastern time on Fox. That is my selection for this week. I've got the Defenders. I think I might have said Battlehawks earlier, improved to 8-2, but I just got a feeling that the Defenders are going to, now after talking about it in all these games, the momentum's going to be on the side of the Defenders to carry into the playoffs. I think they win this game. Both teams will finish the year at 7-3. My next game, the Roughnecks beat the Panthers to improve to 500, and the Panthers fall to 6-4. The Renegades improved to 500 with 5-5 wins on the season and losses, and the Brahmas fall to 1-9. As a result of the Renegades beating them. The Stallions will improve to 7-3 as a result of beating the Showboats, who will fall to 2-8. Again, Defenders over Battlehawks. They both have 7-3 record as a result of this game. The Roughnecks over Panthers improved to 500 as a result of that one as well. Renegades over Brahmas, who improved to 500, and the Brahmas fall to a league worst for the season, 1-9. And the Stallions improved to 7-3. And the Showboats fall to 2-8. That's my predictions for Week 10 for this week in the UFL. You are here for episode 86 as we are streaming live. Comey Media, Sartoba Media, between multi-platforms that are streaming live right now. Thank you for tuning in. For those of you tuning in, commenting, and being along the way throughout the live chat, thank you very much for tuning in as we are streaming live right now. And Ryan McCarthy will be joining us pretty soon. I'm going to go ahead and go to a quick commercial break. Then we got the Snowflake of the Week. Then, hopefully, we will have some CFL discussions and NFL discussions with the man known as Mr. McCoffey out here in these streams. This is UFL Week 10 preview. We'll see how it starts tonight at 8 o'clock on Fox between the Battlehawks and the Defenders. Besides that, we're going to take it to another commercial break.
Later, the post game. But coming up next, the 2-minute drill. This is Total Football Talk. Comey Media Incorporated. Creating content magic in the real world.
In a world where chronicles of the past are brought to the streams, whether the content is relatable or completely beyond your realm of life, there is no shadow of a doubt that this show is absolutely full of shenanigans. Get ready for
D. Willie in the evening.
This Sunday at 10:05 p.m. Eastern.
Exclusively on Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $ D Willie 87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App, and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willie Bucks?
Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commander's Gridiron Report, If you want your Commanders to be rep right, well, D. Willie is your man.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk. We are back for episode 86. Does Jason Kelce suggest a creative way to decide the USA football team for the 2028 Olympics? I am your host, Drew Willingham, for this episode, as we have to discuss something that you all know that you love and enjoy each and every week. That is the Snowflake of the Week. And here with the Snowflake of the Week, it's just my pick this week, but I do have, hopefully, a memorable one, as I'm going to cut the promo right here and now. Kellen Mond of the San Antonio Brahmas, 14 of 26 for completions out of attempts, 103 passing yards, no passing touchdowns. He didn't turn it over, but he didn't have a touchdown at all. Did have 4 rushes for 20 yards, and he had a 63.5 QBR. He might as well have had a fumble to add to the mix, but he didn't. And he had another certified dumpster Pelican performance because he has led this team to a 1-8 record for this 2025 season. 1-8 record. Come on now, Kellen Mond. You have got to do some work during this offseason. It might as well have been Tyrone Alizé McDummy, who was previously on the San Antonio Brahmas, at quarterback instead of at tight end, playing the quarterback position, because that's what it looked like watching this game in the previous 8 games leading up to Game 9 for you to fall to 1-8. Kellen Mond, you are my Snowflake of the Week, and you have got to find it in your soul how to lead this team into a positive outcome on the field, because ever since Wade Phillips stepped down after week 3, they were 0-3. You were the quarterback at the helm, and you have this team at 0-3, and then you go to 1-5 after that. You're 1-8 as a result of your dumpster Pelican play. This is either the 3rd or 4th time the year that you have been my Snowflake of the Week, because there's been a lot of other competitive quarterbacks and competitive play throughout this league to make it interesting. Besides the Memphis Showboats, the other 6 teams are actually competitive in this league. And you are not looking like you are watching any film or doing any preparation in what you're doing and try to show up for the assignment out here on the field. It's looking absolutely terrible. Kellen Mond, you are my pick for Snowflake of the Week. For that, we go into our last commercial break before we bring in our special guest of the week as we go into our Snowflake of the Week transition.
Later, the post game. But coming up next, the 2-minute drill. This is Total Football Talk. Comey Media Incorporated. Creating content magic in the real world.
In a world where chronicles of the past are brought to the streams, whether the content is relatable or completely beyond your realm of life, there is no shadow of a doubt that this show is absolutely full of shenanigans. Get ready for
D. Willie in the evening.
This Sunday at 10:05 p.m. Eastern.
Exclusively on Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $ D Willie 87. Go ahead and hit him up on the Cash App and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willie Bucks?
Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commander's Gridiron Report. If you want your commanders to be rep right, well, D. Willie is your man. Commander's Gridiron Report, every Tuesday at 1:05 p.m. Eastern, 12:05 a.m. Central, on the Sotoba Media YouTube channel. Music by J. Cool.
Where my soldiers, right side, commanders. Where my soldiers, left side, commanders.
Welcome back to episode 86 of Total Football Talk. I'm your co-host, Drew Willingham, here with a special guest this week. I'm going to pop back on myself for a second as we're back from our commercial break. We have a lot to talk about today, and we have a special guest who is a recent graduate of an Ivy League school. Brewmaster out there in these streams, a man of all different trades out here, and he's been a special friend of the program to myself and Cole and many other ventures out here in this podcast and streams. And hopefully in the near future, I can try out one of his Brewmaster beverages out here in these streets at some point, but we'll have to see when it comes to that. We've got to give him a special intro. I do have to flip it over to the other side, to the extra side. Click on a special intro for our guy right here and now. Welcome, Mr. McCoffee.
Hey, Drew.
Oh, no, you disappeared. What happened? Because I clicked on the other. my apologies. Let's try that again. Welcome, Mr. McCoffee.
There we go. Good to be back. Good to be back here on Total Football Talk, although it's not the extra part. But, hey.
We can still do it. We can still do it.
All right.
Yeah, we still extra.
Call for the stretchers. That's some knowledge on you.
I just have all of the stuff that we need for this episode in this setup right now, in this stream. So, but yes, when it comes to Total Football Talk, we have definitely had a lot to discuss on many different episodes. We're finally at episode 86. And, you know, we definitely appreciate you coming in and discussing CFL action for this week because you are the CFL expert and you taught me things, you know, throughout last season with us discussing it on this show as well as on the start of Extra, you know. But
you mean like the fact that Columbus Day in America is in the United States of America is Thanksgiving in Canada?
Yes, yes, I need to go back and find it. I don't need. Did I make a short out of that? I got to go back and see if I did.
You may or may not have, but still, I remember the reaction. Just when I told you that, your head imploded, and it was magic. It was magic.
The unplanned greatness out here in these streams. That was definitely good times. And we got many more good times, you know, throughout this episode. So I definitely appreciate you coming in for hour 2. It's been a while, and we got NFL action to discuss as well as, you know, CFL. We'll save the CFL for a little bit as we do have a little bit of NFL action to discuss from this past week. And for that, we have to take it into that segment that everyone loves. That is the Gridiron Scoop. There's a button out here that I know I got to click for it, but I just don't see it. So we might just say, hey, we're going to go ahead and go into it. Oh, wait, hey, I found it.
I was getting ready to sing an extra special song. It's the Gridiron Scoop. Football talk. Meow.
It would have been a good improv. Cole definitely with the greatness out here with the transitions is, you know, going into that, we have, you know, Cleveland Browns who have had many transitions at the quarterback position. You know, the jersey with those names, has it run out of room yet? Because
I actually read off the 30 quarterbacks they've had since 1999. A couple episodes ago, no credentials required.
but do all 30 fit on the jersey now?
No, you have to get a second jersey, or third, or fourth, or fifth, or 30th.
It was absolutely wild out there, man, to have that jersey and 30 different quarterbacks. I mean, The Commanders have had 11 different quarterbacks since the pandemic. So, including Jaden Daniels. So, with that being said, I understand the pain of a team like that having to go through so many different quarterbacks because it's been rough, but not quite as bad as the Browns. But looking at that franchise, quarterback Kenny Pickett believes that his year in Philadelphia last year showed him how it's supposed to be a true leader of an NFL team, and believes that he can turn the Cleveland Browns around. Do you believe he will prove his words to be true?
He has to prove it in training camp, and Kevin Stefanski has to basically convince Kevin Stefanski, who I think is on the hot seat this year. He has to prove to him that he's the guy to lead this team. And in a way, he does have a point when he says that Philadelphia knows how to do this. Like, from ownership to front office to coaching to the people on the field, Philadelphia is the standard right now. They are the standard. However, he got traded to Cleveland, who is the sub of the substandard. All right. Now, can he be the guy to lead this team this season? He's got to beat out 3 other guys. He's got to beat out Joe Flacco, who was in his second stint with Cleveland. He's got to beat out the 2 draft picks from this year, Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. I don't think it's going to be a rookie leading this team. So it's going to be up to either Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett. I mean, he could be the guy we see in week 1 in a Cleveland uniform. So, but he's got to be the guy who steps it up and proves it to Coach Stefanski that he can be the guy to lead this team this season.
So far, throughout the rookie mini camps, the talk's been about Shedeur Sanders, and that 5th round pick and how everything happened with him slipping down the boards, all that stuff. But apparently he's been looking pretty good in rookie camp. Do you think that there's a really good chance that he can outduel Kenny Pickett?
I'd look pretty good in mini camp too if I had no defenders on me. I'm just throwing patterns to wide receivers and running backs and tight ends with nobody defending them. Yeah, I'd look good too. 47-year-old out of shape, Ryan McCoffey. Looks pretty good. Throwing just a ball to on a go route. Come on.
Hey, there's hype out there, man. There's hype.
Yeah, great hype. Okay.
The spiral on the ball.
Yeah, I can throw a spiral too. Okay. So what?
I can too, but I'm much out of shape in comparison to what good old Shedeur Sanders can do. But
listen, round is a shape. So, I speak for myself, not for anybody else.
Yeah, you roll around out there in the grass.
True. It's true.
But yes, I don't believe him. I don't believe he will even have the opportunity. I think Joe Flacco is going to be a quarterback in the starting position over Kenny Pickett by the start of the season. Like, if it comes down to that, if it's not one of the younger quarterbacks, and I don't think that they should throw the rookies out there because, look at the protection that Deshaun Watson had, even though there's a lot of conspiracy theories behind it, but at the same time, you don't want to see that happen to the quarterbacks you just brought in. You don't, whether they're the 3rd round pick or the 5th round pick, you don't want to see either one of them go down. So looking at it for what it is, I think you have Joe, and not to say Joe Flacco gets thrown to the wolves, but the team is not far removed from the success that they had 2 years ago with Joe Flacco coming in. And they responded well to him. And he could be someone who kind of mentors without trying to mentor, but kind of mentor these younger guys to where, between Gabriel and Sanders, you got 2 quarterbacks that could be, competitive with each other to help each other along the way become decent quarterbacks in the league. One of them might have to get traded at some point to another team to prove it. But they could get help this first year in 2025 because you don't necessarily need to throw them out there. Mahomes had a year to learn behind Alex Smith on how to do the simple things to be an NFL quarterback on and off the field. And that's what you truly need to learn, is how to be a professional on and off. You already know how to play the game of football. You just got to learn the system, and you got to learn how to be a professional, which you've already had some help from, your professional Hall of Fame father for 2 sports, not let alone football, but baseball too. teach you how to be a professional out there. He kind of bombed it in the interviews to where he got thrown down to the 5th round pick, so the rumors say. But at the end of the day, right here, when it comes to Kenny Pickett, they're all in the same locker room. I'm not sure if Kenny Pickett's even on the roster by the end to select who the 53-man roster is.
Yeah, I mean, somebody's got to be let go after this. I mean,
I don't
it
think
could
it's
be
Joe
a
Flacco.
trade.
I don't think
it's not
it's
Joe
Flacco.
Flacco.
I don't think so.
Joe Flacco.
I would be absolutely unless he just has a physical decline throughout this offseason and leading up to the preseason and what we see in his action there, unless he just has a steep decline in his action that we see during preseason, I don't see Flacco getting released. Pickett or Gabriel. But I don't think the Browns let go of Sanders unless the Sanders family or the agent forces some type of trade. But I don't think that happens because he just signed a deal with them. They just locked him up.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. This is a tough decision for whoever the GM for Browns is coming into this season. Yeah, I mean, it could be interesting. You could see somebody get traded after training camp because injuries happen in training camp, and whether it be a training camp injury or exit or a preseason game, injuries happen. And so one of these guys is going to be a practice squad quarterback, or they're going to be traded after the preseason's done. So it's just going to be a matter of who beats out whom and what kind of decision the coaching staff makes after the preseason's done.
Absolutely. I mean, this team right here has had a lot of drama circling it, especially since the whole signing Deshaun Watson, getting rid of Baker Mayfield, bringing in Deshaun Watson, all the stuff that's been circling the drain with them. And you have an opportunity here to do something right. I just don't think that Kenny Pickett's words are true, which is why I had to bring this up, because I don't think he's going to have the opportunity to prove it in Cleveland. And if he doesn't have the opportunity to prove it in Cleveland, where else is he going to be able to prove it? New Orleans?
New Orleans needs a quarterback, although their draft pick has been throwing the ball around. But again, you're throwing the ball around to not defense. You're throwing the ball around just to get used to the patterns of your receivers. That's what the optional practices are. Yeah, I mean, New Orleans could be an option. Las Vegas could be an option if Aaron O'Connell has a bad training camp and they need to bring in a fresh body who's a veteran. Kenny Pickett is considered. He's a veteran now. He's in his 3rd or 4th season. He's a veteran now, so you could bring in somebody to either compete or back up Aiden O'Connell if Aiden O'Connell gets injured or has a bad game and Pete Carroll decides to yank him and put somebody else in. It could be Kenny Pickett in silver and black. We don't know. We don't know the future. The most unpredictable thing about the future. The most predictable thing about the future is that it's unpredictable. So let's wait out the training camps and get to the end of the preseason, and we'll see what unfurls.
It'd be interesting to see what happens. It definitely will, because I mean, Pickett's not going back to the Steelers. That's not happening. They already gave up on him once. It's not like when Mason Rudolph left. It's a totally different scenario. Rudolph fits in with the team as like a journeyman type of quarterback that knows his role, that he is not a guaranteed 17-game starter. He is a plug-and-play journeyman, and he gets paid. I feel like he's the type of dude that shows up. He knows what his role is. He's comfortable with what he gets paid to do. He doesn't have to go out there and take the beating, for an entire season, but goes and does his job. And he hasn't been a terrible quarterback. Kenny Pickett just didn't, and he meshed well at great moments for the Steelers when Ben Roethlisberger was hurt back in the day. So, I mean, and you look at it, I mean, he did have his struggles, but at the end of the day, when you look at what Kenny Pickett has done as a Pittsburgh Steeler, and then since then, it hasn't been pretty. So I have more faith.
He's got a ring, but he's got a ring, and he learned. I think he had to think that Nick Sirianni had a hand in helping him develop as a quarterback. He filled in pretty well last year when Jalen Hurts was injured. So if he can prove that he can do the job, absolutely give him the job. Absolutely, he believes him. If he believes in himself, let him prove it. Let him prove it to his coaches. And your biggest opponent and your biggest supporter is the person you're looking at in the mirror every single day.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Kenny Pickett, I mean, he's saying the right things, but at the same time, you got to prove it now. You got to prove it throughout this offseason camps, and the time you're going to get. Each and every snap counts for a lot of these players on this team, and it's do or die for not only players but Coach Stefanski. You got to get it right now. The time is now. Unfortunately, with the way that they're kind of handicapped with their salary cap because of the Deshaun Watson situation, at least you have young quarterbacks to where Flacco, I feel like, is more affordable than Kenny Pickett. So you'd be better off, either releasing him or trading him for like a 6th-round pick to New Orleans or somebody. And that could even, I feel like that might even be able to happen before the preseason. And a lot of it has to deal with where Aaron Rodgers goes for the Steelers. Because if Aaron Rodgers doesn't go to the Steelers, that affects who the Saints can make moves for to truly be ready, whether it's at a QB1 or QB2 spot. And they might not necessarily be in play as the Saints would be for Pickett as they would be until the Rodgers situation's figured out. So
I actually just looked it up. I'm doing some real time research on Spot Track, and actually Joe Flacco makes just a skosh more than Kenny Pickett. So they're both cheap. They're both cheap options, as are the rookie quarterbacks and the Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders.
But they're not going into the year with 4 quarterbacks.
No, they're not. No,
you're
not. Absolutely right. They're not.
But
I was just
they made the moves
they
made the moves for the 2 veteran quarterbacks before we even got to the draft.
Yeah. So, but somebody's going bye.
Yeah,
or being a practice squad player.
And I just, if it were me running this team, you already know what Flacco did with your team in 2023. He came in, we already know. And he was gone in 2024 because Deshaun Watson didn't want to have to look over his shoulder for his job. Is literally the reports that were out there and why Flacco, had to roll out for a year. But now he's back.
Mm-hmm.
And, you look at the situation now, after he was a comeback player of the year, if you are the head coach that was there when he did that, do you let him walk over Kenny Pickett?
The silence is me shaking my head, audio people.
I'm just saying, I'm out here just thinking, bruh, you have to keep Flacco the veteran leadership, and he's someone who's won a Super Bowl that you could have your rookie quarterbacks look up to.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
That's my take on that. As we move on into the next take.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
For our next take out here. And speaking of giving them the business, there was exceptionally high demand and crashes NFL London ticketing system. When we look at the popularity of international games played in London, you have all sorts of things going on overseas. The ticketing, it crashed so quick. With the demand in American football finally bring a home-based team in London based on the fact that there's such high demand for teams to be playing in London and Germany, many other places. What do you think?
Yes. And there are 2 options. Either there's going to be expansion again, or my favorite team, the New York Jets, will be moving operations from Florham Park, New Jersey, to London, England. In the future, depending on how.
Prediction.
Well, I was saying it's a prediction, but Think of it this way: one of the owners of the team, Woody Johnson, served as an ambassador to the UK in the first Trump administration, so he's got ties to all over the place when it comes to Britain, Great Britain, England, London especially. So they've already got stadiums. They've already got a stadium, Wembley Field or Wembley Stadium. It's already built in place to host a big attraction event. Numerous events, in fact. So, but it's just interesting that the Jets are playing a game in London this year, but it's not going to be at Wembley. It's going to be at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, where they played the last couple times for the London game. So, you could very much see the London Jets. And in their history, they've never had their own stadium. They played at the Polo Grounds when they initially came when they were in the AFL. Then they moved to Shea Stadium. Then they moved to Giant Stadium. So they've never had a true home of their own. It just makes sense if the team falters in ticket sales and fans in New York, at least in New York, get restless, or New York, New Jersey area get restless, like we have been the last 15 years, going on 15 years. If ticket sales start to crash and Woody Johnson's saying, I can't operate here, why not look at London as a possible place to play in the future? But I don't see that happening, considering how big of a media market it is. You want two teams in the area to kind of compete with each other. So the biggest way I would think that London would get a team is if the NFL would expand by probably two more teams. One of them would definitely be London, and I could see one if they prove themselves worthy or they build a new stadium there, St. Louis.
We've seen what the Battlehawks have done in the UFL. Popularity there is. I feel like when they have more people in their stadium that the other three combined have in the entire week. When you compare the entire total attendance.
Uh-oh. Did we lose Drew?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're good.
Okay, cool. But yeah, all right. I thought I dropped out for a second.
No,
yeah.
You're good. Tommy, can you hear me?
Internet, man. Sometimes it'll mess with you. But anyway, out here, when it comes to these teams that we're looking at during the offseason, and you look at the potential, we're going to have more games overseas. We're going to have all this going on in the future. When do you see this happen? Do you see this happening by 2030?
I can see it by 2030. Another team I thought of about who would possibly relocate are the Jacksonville Jaguars. But from what I think they have a stadium deal in place to replace their current stadium. But I'll double check. But Chad Kahn, the owner of the Jaguars, also very close to London, England, and he knows that market pretty well. So if it's not the Jets, it could be the Jaguars. We could see the London Jaguars at Wembley Stadium in the next 10 to 15 years. But I'm just speculating. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. But I still think it's going to be have to be expansion. And I'm just looking at the Jacksonville Jaguar Stadium right now. They're actually renovating Everbank Stadium starting this year, and they expected to be completed by the start of 2028. So they got some sort of state renovation in place. It's not a new stadium, but they're working on something. But at least, unlike the Jets, they have their own field. So, but like I said, I don't think any football team is going to, I don't think anyone in the NFL is looking to relocate again with that whole mess with the Chargers and the Rams moving back to Los Angeles. And I don't know. I think it's going to be expansion. We could see two more teams enter the mix with NFL. They haven't done so since 1999 when the Browns entered back in the league. Although they weren't technically an expansion team, they were just came in as a new franchise with established history. So I think we could see we could see a London franchise by expansion, at least by 2030, and then if they can add a second city.
It
also wouldn't hurt if San Diego got got their own team again. But it's not the Chargers, but still.
The London Jets.
It could happen. Or just rebrand them as the Spitfires.
Change the whole name. Change it. Just change. Maybe you can. Maybe with the commies changing their name from the formerly known as the RADSKINS. Maybe the shift with that momentum that could happen with you. Just go to London, change your name, play somewhere else, and maybe the now known as Jets can be a winner.
Maybe. Although, look at their owner. I don't know about that.
For good old sports ball.
Hey, does he in the chat? One of our crud heads in the chat. Glad
Holy shnikes, it's on your channel, but not mine. But he's still here. It still puts a smile on my face to be able to click this button. Welcome back, Bickala. Being out here in these streets.
What?
I said, welcome back, Bickala.
What?
Was it?
What's that?
Welcome back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately, Cole is not here this week, understandably so, but I will click this in his honor.
Okay.
Will not be mentioned in this broadcast for said reasons because he really doesn't have any news to talk about right now.
Also, it's a football show. Come on.
But I still find a way to talk about
Okay.
for at least 12 and a half seconds. There it is. That's what we did in this episode. But between the London ticketing system crashing, I would have to agree with you that it's at some point going to result in a team or two being relocated over there. And they're going to have to figure out all this international flight and traveling and make it work because it would be more beneficial and more profitable for the league to help keep things afloat into the future. If you really think about it, you're already testing the water with all these games anyway. And they're not exhibitions, they're actual real-time, weekly games that are played in, these other places that are having success in drawing numbers and selling out. And, you got to do it. Yeah, dude, that's my opinion. That's your opinion. That's what's going to happen. Now, a receiver that's been a diva for
I can't wait to
quite some time. All right. They just locked him up on a 3-year deal. Okay. 3-year extension, 3-year max extension for the New England Patriots. As head coach Mike Vrabel says, the team is aware of the recent viral video featuring Stefon Diggs. Do you believe that even though they're going to keep their heads above water right now, do you believe that this is the start, that this is the beginning of the end for him with this franchise?
I just find it funny that he pulled a Prestige Worldwide during off-season training, workouts, going with the boats and hose. And what's that pink substance, my friend? What is that stuff? Is it Fun Dip? Is that what we're calling it now? Fun Dip?
That I don't have a PhD in street stuff, so I don't know what that is, but
I don't know what it is either.
And I didn't go to school for that kind of stuff, but what I can at least say is it doesn't look good. Okay. And it doesn't look like something that you would be flashing around on a boat, on a yacht, whatever, and partying. Like in that type of setting in a group, if you're holding something like that, just from watching movies and stuff and just being privy to things like that in the culture, it's not like your ordinary standing around having a Michelob Ultra talking to the homies, talking to the ladies or whatever, drinking a glass of wine, whatever you're doing, taking a couple shots, whatever the case may be. Mixed drink, I don't care. But the point is you're out there and you have a pink substance on a boat. What in God's name is that? And the team now has to have this as a looming effect over there as what's going on off the field, because you got to be a professional on and off the field when it comes to this sport and game of football, and people have proven it in the past. Now, there has been worse as far as role models for what not to do, I guess, if that's the best way to put it. Role models for what not to do, Antonio Brown and others, on how to not behave as a superstar out there.
We don't speak his name in the capital region of New York, FYI.
Oh, yes, because of is it mainly because of his arena football ties?
Mainly because of his association with the team formerly known as the Albany Empire that he sank into the ground.
Yes.
But that's neither here nor there.
I still see that you feel some type of way for that, because the team was kicked out of the league and took the... Still feeling some type of way.
Still a bit of a sore spot. But at least the Firebirds are 9-0, so it's all good.
Yes, they've capitalized on that and turned it around, and they look at the one that you don't discuss right now based on the things that are going on in his life, and pretty much that's what they're doing right now. Is because he's for quite some time needed to do this.
Stop it. Get some help.
You know it, and I know it.
Absolutely. But getting back to Stefon Diggs, yeah, it's not a good look, and especially on a new team that you made the decision to cut ties with Houston. Which, look, if you were still on that team would be extra special dangerous this year with a healthy wide receiver core, with him and Tank Dell, and those guys in the backfield, Mixon. That's a dangerous team if he's still on that team. But he decided, no. I'm gonna take my talents. I hate saying that. Take my talents to
South
New
Beach.
England. Gonna go from Texas to New England to start off with a new regime with Mike Vrabel. And this does not exactly make a good first impression for your head coach. And I understand these OFTs are optional. Maybe he had the written note saying, "Hey, I'm a veteran. I want to take place in this. Can I have this week off? Go on vacation, get my body heal. I'll come back. I'll run some routes with Drake May a little bit before training camp starts." But when you go ahead and there's pictures posted online of you and a bunch of women on a boat with a suspicious pink-looking substance that may or may not be Fun Dip, we'll just call it that. Not a great look. Not a great look at all, Mr. Diggs. So I hope you're well. I hope you're having fun. But at the same time, be responsible, dude. This is not prestige worldwide. This is not boats and hoes. This is the NFL. And you got to act responsible and be a good team player. And this is not exactly good team player, good team culture behavior you're espousing out here.
No, not one bit, unfortunately. But with that, we'll see what happens. Do you think that, based on what we've said, do you think he finishes out that 3-year max contract with the Patriots now?
Like I said, it's not a good first impression, but I hope he makes up for it with the good by his performance on the field in the regular season. But otherwise, at this juncture, no, he does not finish He does not finish a 3-year contract. I think he either gets cut or gets traded. Yeah,
because he's coming off a pretty tough injury, and that's basically what ended his time last year with the Texans, and just 1 year after that Bills run that he had, it's just looking pretty tough for him right now. And with this, it's not like I wouldn't say like a Rashee Rice situation necessarily right now.
No.
But at the same time, you're on camera with something that they're investigating right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's never a good thing. It's never a good thing when it comes to something. I mean, come on, you need to be aware of your surroundings when you're on a yacht and when you're out in public. It's free game. People can't necessarily film you in your house inside of your home without your permission. I believe that is a standing law, but in public, once you step outside your front door, you're fair game to any camera, like surveillance, anything. But within side of a enclosure, like a building or I think a moving vehicle or something, I think without permission, unless it's something like this being filmed for a profit, like for a profit.
It also depends on the state. Some people need consent. Some people, in some states you have to have consent from the person taping. Other states you don't have to have consent at all.
I know in Virginia it's like that, so that's why basically that's how I'm speaking on that experience. But just along those lines, you still need to be aware once you walk outside your front door, your surroundings, and people, like when the higher you climb out there, the ladder out there in success, there's always going to be haters out there that want to try to knock you down a peg or two, and it's the tough times that lead you to getting up the ladder before that should have calloused you up to be tough enough to be able to handle it. So I think he'll be okay because he's privy to bumps in the road in the past before. But this situations like this, if it's proven to be a substance that's not good, that you shouldn't be having, it's not fun dip, and it's not going to be a fun situation to have to deal with.
It's not fun dip. It's not the pink slime they put in some beef, some lower grade beef.
True. Come on, man. You don't like Sundays that much where you put some extra sprinkles on top where you're out there on a yacht. Like it's just it's a shady situation.
Some people call them Jimmies.
Little Jimmy, like little Jimmy's, like Ron Cena's little Jimmys.
Probably, but maybe he's getting his Jimmys rustled up them Jimmys on his boat.
Little Jimmy.
I'll see myself out.
Little mother, father, and Jimmy's. That's awesome. Oh man, that's great. But yes, apparently we can film anything you can see from public. Yes, that's what I felt was true. So with you being on a yacht, you being out there, you have got to be aware of what your mother, father, and surroundings are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, we're out here on a Friday talking about, because, of course, in the NFL, there's not really much to talk about right now because there's not too much action going on. This is really a time filler, but it's fun because just 6 weeks or so ago, you just signed that 3-year max deal coming in as a receiver to be the number one guy for the Patriots. McCoffey says that he gets cut or traded before the end of this deal. And when it comes to Stefon Diggs and when it comes to this situation right here, based on his age, he's 31 years old. He'll be 32 during this season. I have to agree with you. I have to agree with you. He's not going to finish his contract here. The 3-year, $69 million deal. It includes a $26 million guaranteed option, regardless if he's on the team or not. So regardless if they cut him, I think he's there in 2025. At least. They get the year out of him. They're going to see what production they can get out of him. And then with the type of contract that he has, if he plays well, there will be a market for him during the next offseason. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think your prediction comes into fruition. It's going to be early on. I don't think it'll be by year 2. But, hey, we just saw a situation with Pickens.
Yeah.
Where they didn't want to pay him. And, well, now he's locked up the extension now. But looking at that, they didn't want to pay him over there in Pittsburgh. That's why they got DK Metcalf. So this could be the beginning of another situation where he's just a filler for the number one option to try to boost some more confidence in their quarterbacks that they have there, because we don't know if May's going to be the option or not. Not guaranteed at the moment. Nobody's at least on – it would be stupid enough to say here on May 30th who their number one guy is, who's a quarterback who's at the position for something that's a questionable spot right now. If you're somebody who's been in the position for 10 years or going on that with like Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, players who've been there for quite some time, you already know they're going to be the starting quarterback. But of course, you're not going to, at least you're not going to, announce it right now when you don't even know if Aaron Rodgers is going to be playing NFL, in the NFL this year. So
I've got a rant about. Not so much a rant about that, but I got some about closing thoughts about Aaron Rodgers. Well, the subject will be regarding Aaron Rodgers, not necessarily Aaron Rodgers himself. In closing thoughts, foreshadowing.
I look forward to hearing that. We do have one more topic that we have to cover before we get to our CFL action. Or before we do that, though, and that is we talk about the main topic of this show. So Jason Kelce.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
And we even have a special graphic for that for the thumbnail. As Jason Kelce suggests a creative way to decide the USA football team for the 2028 Olympics. Looking at the debacle of, the teams out here between the NFL superstars and the flag football team that you have, there's, I guess, worried about their jobs because they don't think that the NFL teams, the NFL superstars should just be able to come in and take their spot. Well, if you look at how they played in this past Olympics, they're absolutely terrible. Charles Barkley would say that they are terrible.
Acknowledge me.
I'm acknowledging the fact that you were that terrible. I mean, it was not a surprise.
Surprise, motherfucker.
I even have the button.
That's terrible.
Right there. They were that terrible. Charles Barkley tells you straight up, and I'm telling you straight up right now, I just believe that they were just that bad in 2024. So you need to give it a shot to the 2028 Olympics to get the NFL superstars in there. I mean, what do you believe is the best solution for the current debacle surrounding this team with all that?
So, if I remember correctly, there wasn't any flag football in Paris in 2024. I do remember the USA junior team. There was a university team of like D3 and D2 players who played for the World Championships and got beat by Japan in the semifinal. And I think they won bronze, but now when flag football was announced, the quarterback for USA football, I'm trying to remember his name here. I've got it in front of me. Daryl Doucette III came out and said, like, we've played flag football for the United States for X amount of years. We played for so long. And it would be terrible I wouldn't say terrible, but it would be, he said, we've been playing this for a long time and we feel like we're the best at it. We don't need other guys. This is a quote on SI.com. This team's actually won 2 flag football world championships. They've won gold. So if that's going to be the team you want, all right, let's see some new faces for football in the United States of America. Now, when the NFL came out and said, the NFLPA voted and said, we're granting our players to play. And this is actually great timing because it's right before training camp starts in 2028. The July, because the games are going to be in July in 2028 in Los Angeles. So perfect timing. You can get your conditioning in, so to speak, before you go to training camp for those who participate. But at the same time, you're taking a spot away from somebody who has actually played this flag football for years and has won gold medals in the championship games. To replace them with guys who, yes, they are well known. They're brand names. They're part of a brand, the NFL. Who, let's face it, it's the number 1 league in the world right now. And outside of soccer, it's the number 1, the most recognizable league in the entire world right now. So you want your superstars to play in those Olympic Games and represent either their country of origin, like the United States, or the country where their heritage is based off. Like Kyler Murray, I think he's gone public and said, I want to play for South Korea in these games because I think his mother is South Korean, is a Korean descent. And I believe there's somebody else who said that they were interested in playing for Korea as well. I can't remember who it was, but at one time, I'm kind of conflicted on this one in terms of who represents the United States. On one hand, I want to see the guys who have won the world championships before. On the other hand, you want your best and your brightest from the sport that is number one in the world outside of soccer to be represented at those games, because football is expanding. It's growing in it's growing in global growth, especially in Europe. We're seeing it in South America with the Sao Paulo First Friday games. You're going to play in Australia next year, a regular season game in Australia in next year, in 2026. So you want your players who are in the league to represent the league in those games. But I also feel for Daryl Doucette III. And I thought after he said he wanted to play in the Olympics, a lot of people are basing the NFL playing on one clip online of him throwing a terrible pass, a terrible backwards pass, which again, not necessarily his fault on that one. And they said, "Oh, this guy should be playing instead of Patrick Mahomes or somebody else for the United States." You're basing the film on one pass, one clip you saw online. That was just a broken play. So, Jason Kelce, I read the article. I'm going a little bit long here, Drew. I'm sorry if I'm going a little bit long.
Oh, no, you're good.
But yes, I think this is a great way, this creative way of saying, yeah, let's put the guys who are currently representing the United States in flag football right now, who have won world championships, against NFL players, and let's battle it out and see who the best team wins, and they go on to represent the United States in 2028. I think this is a brilliant idea. I like it.
I like it too, and that's why I'm glad that we had this as a topic, and out of all the four for the Gridiron Scoop, you got fired up the most for it. I mean, take as much time as you need, because you gave a great insight, and I feel very similar to this when looking at this situation, because I mean the best way to decide competition, especially when selecting an all-star team, no matter what it is, representing a country, you need to have as many people show up to try out for it as possible. And then you just have inter-squad practices to determine who's the best fit for your team. And that's been proven for USA basketball, baseball, tennis, gymnastics, whatever you look at. There's been a cut at any level, no matter if it's for the Olympic level or a league, or whether it's a voting system or whatnot, it's all the same thing. So you have to have that type of structure when determining this anyway. So the fact that in the 2028 Olympics, I misspoke earlier, but the fact in the 2028 Olympics, you have the option to either A, have current or retired NFL players. Mm-hmm. So who's to say Tom Brady's still not in shape enough to sling the rock for a week and a half, basically playing, it's not sand, but sand football, and slinging it around in flag football. He could do it.
He'll be 50.
He'll be 50, but
he'll be 50 when those games come around. But you don't have defensive linemen, 275, 300-pound linemen coming at you. Like you basically have 7 seconds to get rid of the ball.
He's still in good shape. So I'm just saying, like, if you wanted to try to have that one opportunity, it's kind of like John Cena in WWE having that one last run. He could come in as the heel quarterback to shut everybody down for the NFL Flag League and sling it. But I don't know if his current obligations would allow him to do it or not.
Well, what if he comes out of retirement and plays for Ireland instead of the United States?
What? How can he do that?
Brady's an Irish name. It's of Irish descent. He's of Irish descent. You can represent a nation in the Olympics as long as you have either citizenship or you have descendancy from that nation. So technically, I could play, if I were to choose a sport, I could play for the United States, I could play for Ireland, or I could play for the Netherlands or Germany. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. But no, definitely good takes on that with this right here. I think that the best way to do it, inter-squad, scrimmages until you figure out who the best, I don't know how many they can take, whether it's 12 or 15 players or whatnot for the run.
I do have to give credit to the NFL in this regard. The last couple of years, instead of the Pro Bowl, we now have the Pro Bowl games, which are like, this is stupid. I hate this. I don't like seeing this. they were playing the long game in terms of the Olympics, because if you're gonna have your best and oh my gosh, we'll slip there. Your best and your brightest playing the game that you're representing. Yes, you want your NFL, you want your professional athletes, and I guess the Canadian Football League is also considering sending some of their players, whether it be active or retired, to the Olympic Games too. But yeah, I think, but like I said, give credit to credit's due for the NFL with the flag football replacing the actual Pro Bowl and the Pro Bowl games. Roger Goodell is playing the long game. Good for him.
He sure is. And right here, I wonder how much of a kickback they get.
Hella
kickback. Funding. There has to be some type of funding option from this. That's the only way I could think of it. I mean, Melvin, it says breast in your body.
You're welcome, Melvin. That's gonna be clipped.
That's great. That's a clip. That's a clip right there. Breast and your brightest. Absolutely. But we never Mr. McCoffey's thoughts were in the moment. I'm just kidding. But anyway, right here and now, when it comes to this Olympic team, Jason Kelce, you have a great suggestion there, which is why we had to discuss it last, which is why it's the main topic of the show as far as the thumbnail goes. As Jason Kelce suggested this creative way to decide the USA football team for the 28 Olympics. And Mr. McCoffey and I agree out here in these streams. Now it's time to take it to the 2-minute drill and discuss this upcoming week in the CFL. I discussed earlier the UFL, as that starts up here in about an hour for this, but we're a week away from next week's CFL action for the week 1 preview, and it's time to give Mr. McCoffey's thoughts right here and now as we go into the 2-minute drill. The 2-minute drill button, I'm just going to go ahead and click this one. For that, we have CFL Week 1 to discuss.
Yay.
Games that you have looked forward to for quite some time to be able to discuss, because I know that, with everything you've been going on to become an Ivy League scholar, that you did not have time to really keep up with the UFL, and it's understandably so. So we saved the CFL action just for you right here now. But when it comes to that, the CFL, Ottawa Red Blacks, travel to my favorite team, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, next Thursday, June 5th, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm guessing it's on TSN. You may have to correct me in this graphic right here.
You're correct.
But the Saskatchewan Roughriders are hosting another game in their back. CFL's Week 1 action against the Ottawa Red Blacks. Do you believe the Saskatchewan Roughriders will pull it off, Mr. McCoffey, and win this game this week?
So I'm coming at you with a mind-blowing fact again in terms of the CFL. Did you know that there actually was a team in Ottawa also named the Rough Riders before the Red Blacks?
What years?
They ceased operations in 1996, but let me look at the name when they started.
Okay.
1876 to 1996.
Holy expletive. Used to 120 years?
Yep.
1876 to 1996.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a typo. This is real times. We are live for episode 86 right now of Total Football Talk. Mr. McCoffey bringing up a real-time stat. 120 years for a team known as the Rough Riders before the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. And they were the Ottawa Rough Riders. And
yes.
before that, and now we have the Ottawa Red Blacks. So,
yes. And the Saskatchewan Rough Riders weren't founded until 1910.
Okay, so do you think... Wait, hang on. 1910. So you had two Rough Riders facing each other?
Yes, you did.
Hold on. You had in the same league, the Ottawa Rough Riders and the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Yes, you did.
And they would compete against one another.
Yes, they've actually competed against each other. They actually competed against each other in 2 Grey Cups, 1966 and 1976.
Get the father out of here, man. Get the father out of here, man. What in the expletive? This is blowing my mind again, just like when we had facts last year.
Yeah, that's
haven't
right.
even gotten 2 episodes of extra yet. Gee.
Mind-blowing facts here on Total Football Talk.
Absolutely.
It's not even extra. It's not even extra.
You just... That was news to any of you. It was to me, as that was a mind-blowing situation, which is why I felt like it was necessary to click the button at that time. But based on that, this is CFL Week 1 and the first game of the year. Who's winning and why?
I think it's going to be your Saskatchewan Roughriders, and I tell you why. It's Week 1. It's in Regina. It's Riderville. This team comes back. This team comes back, and they got a lot to prove. Again, they've been to the ball, so to speak, in the last couple seasons. They were runners up in the West Final against Winnipeg the last couple seasons, and I think this is the year that they figure they could, if they stay healthy, if everyone stays healthy on offense, especially at quarterback. Trevor Harris looking at you. Trevor Harris, looking at you. Also, AJ Ouellette is back. He's healthy. He's actually dropped some weight. Corey Mace told him in the offseason, stop lifting so much weights. You're big enough as it is. We need you to be fast. So he's dropped. I think he's dropped about 20 pounds, if I'm not mistaken. But he's still a guy who can get at it. All right. Corey Mace putting together a very fast, aggressive defense, just like last year. When they got off to that brilliant start, struggled in the middle, and then came back and they won. They got second place in the West Division. Ottawa has a lot to prove from last season. I think the loss in the semifinal when they were up really big on Toronto, and then they dropped the second half, and they were just absolutely pulverized from the second quarter onward. That's still sticking in the back of their mind. But they add an established running back in William Stanback, formerly of the Montreal Alouettes and formerly of the BC Lions. So they've got a veteran running back who can carry the ball, carry the load for this team. They've needed a running attack, but week one can be unpredictable. Right now, I guess this week is the last week of the preseason. So, the final roster is in place at the end of this weekend. So, but for me, I think it's because it's Thursday night. It's week 1. It's in Regina. It's under the lights at Mosaic Stadium. Full capacity crowd at Riderville. It's going to be too much noise for the Redbacks. I'm going to take the Saskatchewan Roughriders in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you here. I believe not only as a homer of the team, but because they, last year they underperformed towards the end. 9-8-1 is a record to end the year, and they were 2 games behind the Blue Bombers for the West Division, and just couldn't pull it out at the end, and lost that last game of the year. When I believe that even though they did make the playoffs, but still to win the division. At the beginning of the year, the way they were playing and the way the Blue Bombers were playing, it looked like the Rough Riders were going to win the division the first half of the season. And the Blue Bombers were not playing that well. And I had that one video that actually garnered some attention out there on a couple platforms, throwing some shade at the Blue Bombers, and they turned it around and won the division. And you told me early on that teams like the Rough Riders and the Lions that were smacking it around might not necessarily be the teams that are on top at the end of the year. And the Rough Riders still finished in second and still made the playoffs, but at the same time, the Lions were the team that finished at 500 after starting the year looking great that first 10 games, and then finishing it out looking like dumpster pelicans at the end.
Yeah,
they were 8-9 going into the last game, won the last game of the year, but still
they couldn't figure out which quarterback was going to lead them. Was it going to be Vernon Adams or was it going to be Nathan Rourke? And there was kind of a rift, I would say, in terms of the offense, where you couldn't have an established quarterback. Well, at the end of the season, towards into the new year, they made that decision and they traded Vernon Adams to Calgary. So Vernon Adams is now a Calgary Stampeder. Sorry, Vernon Adams Jr. is a Calgary Stampeder, and Nathan Rourke, they give a huge pay raise too. They gave a big contract too in terms of Canadian dollars, and he's going to be the leader for that team. So I think there's still some stabilization there. But yeah, I said last year, when Winnipeg got off to that awful start, I said don't panic. This team's going to turn it around, and they did. They won the division. They won the West Division in the regular season. They won the playoff game. They won the West Division championship and went to the Grey Cup. And unfortunately, time kind of ran out on them. And they faced a very hot Toronto Argonauts team.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens when you have, these two teams facing off here down the line. But with the Ottawa Red Blacks and the Rough Riders, I feel like the Red Blacks, even though they've got a pretty good season ahead of them based on what they're trying to build on from last year. I mean, they weren't absolutely terrible. They were just over 500 with a 9-8 record, 9-8-1 record last year. The Red Blacks had their flashes in the pan last year, and I just have a good feeling about them for this 2025 year. But when it comes to my team, known as the Riders, I had to get one more in before we go to the next game. I got the Rough Riders winning this Thursday night's game on June 5th, 9:30 p.m. Eastern time on TSN. Everybody out there, make sure you find some time to watch that game. Our next one on Friday, the Toronto Argonauts. Keep in mind all teams are even keel right now. They're all 0-0. All right. Toronto Argonauts 0-0 against the 0-0 Montreal Alouettes. This Friday, the only Friday game, TSN, 7 p.m. Eastern time, this upcoming Friday. Mr. McCoffey, what are your thoughts on this game? Who wins and what?
It's a rematch of the East Final from last season. And Montreal, things have changed in Montreal. The quarterback has changed. Davis Alexander is now the quarterback at the helm. Hello. Davis Alexander is now the quarterback at the helm with the Montreal Alouettes. Toronto Argonauts right now, it's kind of a right now Chad Kelly is still working on that broken ankle that he broke. It was a devastating injury in the East Final last year on the turf at McGill Stadium. Nick Arbuckle is going to be the likely guy who will start on Friday. Or it could be Cameron Dukes. We don't know. This is a good matchup. I know for me, it's my Montreal Alouettes, who are my team. They're playing the team that beat them in the East Final last year. Toronto riding that momentum all the way to the Grey Cup. Actually, I'm going to take Toronto in this one. I think Toronto, they return a lot from their core from last year's team. They believed in Matt and Nick Arbuckle, who got them that championship, was the MVP of that Grey Cup game. But you got to watch out for Montreal. Tyson Philpott is back in the lineup after missing most of last year with a foot injury. So he'll be a guy to watch for the Alouettes. But I think Toronto, look at their season started nicely with a win away in Montreal.
No, that's a good pick, and I agree with that. Toronto. So Chad Kelly is back.
He is back. But I think he's going to be the guy. He's going to be second string for a bit as his ankle fully heals. Because last year, if you saw in the East Final when he broke his ankle, that was not pretty. It was not pretty. It was pretty bad.
And to make sure I'm not misremembering, you have Toronto winning on the road.
Toronto winning on the road.
And this is over your Montreal Alouettes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really disagree with you much, but even though I'm kind of going into this blind, you gotta disagree about something within these picks. And I'm going to go with your favorite team, the Montreal Alouettes. I'm picking Montreal Alouettes in the upset here over the Toronto Argonauts, who had a pretty solid year last year. I mean, both teams did. They faced each other in the playoffs. And this could be a sign and a good test for games to come. This could be easily, as far as our CFL games recap next week, our game of the week. It could potentially be.
I'll be watching.
It would be.
I'll be watching.
Same. We'll have to be firing, kind of like what we did last year during CFL games, firing off messages back and forth, because there's some good action in the CFL, and arguably, some better action in the CFL than the UFL. But the UFL has actually improved this year, in my opinion, from covering it this year in comparison to last year. There are some dumpster Pelican teams like the Brahmas and the Showboats who are at the bottom of the league, but I don't think we're going to have that problem as much with the CFL. Hopefully not. Hopefully we'll have some competition out here, and we'll see it. And what I predict now is, I'll just go on the record by saying it, I predict that this will be our game of the week next week. Saturday, we have 2 games, Mr. McCoffey. We have 2 games out here to wrap up week 1 of CFL. And the Hamilton Tiger Cats are on the road against the Calgary Stampeders. Saturday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time on TSN. June 7th is upcoming Saturday, a week from tomorrow. What are your thoughts? The Hamilton Tiger Kitties pull it off against the Calgary Stampeders. Both of these teams had their ups and downs last year, had their battles. The Stampeders finished at the bottom of the West Division at 5-12-1, and the Tiger Kitties finished at 7-11. Shout out to 7-Eleven, great Slurpees, but not for this situation. 7-11 for the record for the Tiger Kitties. What are your thoughts? Could this be the Dumpster Pelican Bowl of the week, or will we see improvement out of these 2 teams?
I think we'll see improvement out of these 2 teams, especially Calgary. Calgary was they're kind of in a, not so much a rebuild, but kind of a reset. As I mentioned, Vernon Adams Jr. will probably be the starting quarterback of this team in week 1. But don't forget, they have a particular quarterback who has spent time in the XFL and the NFL, and PJ Walker as his backup. So Vernon Adams happens to have an injury, or he's playing poor. Sometimes it's very feast or famine with Mr. Adams. Either he's very Jameis Winston like. He's either throwing touchdowns or he's throwing picks. High risk, high reward guy. Hamilton, meanwhile, they got to get off to a better start than they did last year. They were actually in playoff contention up until the last month of the season last year.
We covered it, yes.
Yeah,
absolutely. You're getting hype.
Yeah. And Bo Levi Mitchell was in the conversation for most outstanding player, even though he was on a losing team. Hamilton's got to get off to a fast start if they want to compete in that East Division. I think the East Division is pretty wide open, in my opinion. At the same time, I think Calgary is much improved from last year. They'll have some stability at quarterback. They don't have Jake Mayer. He went over to Saskatchewan. He's now backing up Trevor Harris. But they have some stability at the quarterback position with Vernon Adams Jr. and PJ Walker. They have Dominic Rhymes, who signed with the Stampeders, who gives them another weapon at wide receiver, along with Reggie Bigleton and the returning Malik Henry. So I think Calgary, and also they have a running game. Don't forget they have a bit of a running game. So I'm going to go with the Calgary Stampeders in this one. I think that the ponies get off to a good start in 2025.
I like that take. I really do, because the Stampeders need some type of spark, man. They really do. 5-12-1 was just a terrible way to go down last year. They were 4-12-1 going into their last game of the year and absolutely won that one. But on the road, they did okay at home. They were 4-4 on the road at home, but they were 1-8 on the road last year. That's what was their ultimate demise. And this game right here helps out their cause. If they got a 50-50 shot pretty much of winning this game. So I'm going with the Calgary Stampeders as well. I'm going to side with you on this. I mean, we do have a couple comments here. Let's the Tiger Kitties. He says, the Tiger Kitties, Melvin says, and Hamilton wins this game based on the name itself.
Okay, Melvin. All right.
Melvin has a decent take on that, but I'm actually going to side with you on Ryan, because Calgary has a 50-50 shot at winning at home. And based on what they did last year, and if they improved or declined enough, I feel like they have a better shot at winning this game at home than the Tiger Kitties, who even though they had a 7-11 record down the stretch towards the end, when they had a chance to at least enter the playoffs, they couldn't lock it up. And is Bo Levi Mitchell playing again or what?
He is.
Okay. So he's starting or not?
Yes, he's starting.
Okay. Do you see, before we get to the last game, do you see that they have a similar year to last year with him at the helm, or does he not finish the year as a starting quarterback?
Their defense started to get better as the season went on when they brought in Chris Jones, who was fired by the Edmonton Elkamos, bringing him in as the defensive coordinator. Their defense got better as the season went along. I don't know if I remember correctly, I think he's back at the helm at defensive coordinator. But if their defense doesn't flounder like it did last season at times, I think Hamilton has a chance to get to the playoffs this year. Also got to stay healthy.
Yeah, stay healthy. That's the important thing. That's what we saw. It affects a lot of teams that have momentum out there. It takes one injury to one of the sides, whether it's offense, defense, or special teams, whatever that impact there is. Somebody that's making that impact is gone. It makes an impact to how these games turn by the end of the game. And for that, based on the first game of the year, I'm going with your take here with Calgary Stampeders, as we have one more game to look at for this upcoming week. For the last game of the same day on Saturday, you have the Edmonton Elkamos, as we said from last year, taking on the BC Lions in good old British Columbia, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern time on TSN this upcoming Saturday, the 7th. Who are you taking and why there, Mr. McCall?
I had to think about this game. You know who's playing at halftime
Who?
in BC? Snoop Dogg.
No way.
Snoop Dogg is the halftime show for the BC Lions home opener this year.
Snoop D-O-double-G?
Yes, sir.
All right. Snoop D-O-double-G in the house.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Halftime. Nice.
Halftime. That's the halftime show. As for the game itself, I'm going to, this is going to be my real upset special here. Mr. Willingham, you can put this down on the piece of paper. I'm going to go with the Elks in this game. He's writing on a piece of paper. I'm going with the Elks. I'm going to go with the Elks in this game. He's strengthening the universe. It's landing somewhere. Anyway,
he's in a paper airplane in the air.
There we go.
Riding around with my ninjas that just don't care.
I'm going to go with the Elks, and the primary reason why, Trey Ford. Trey Ford is going to get to the keys to the kingdom. He proved it last year, especially in the second half of this year, that he can play in this league. He can play professional quarterback. Now, granted, it's not going to say. I was going to say it's on a short leash because his backup is Cody Fajardo, 2023 Grey Cup MVP, who was traded by the Montreal Alouettes to the Elks in exchange for the law offices of, I can't remember his name all of a sudden, but guy has a great beard. Let's put it that way. But Trey Ford, you can do it with his arm. You can do it with his legs. And I think if the Elks can short up on defense, and I know last year the Lions had an identity crisis at quarterback at times, like I mentioned before, with Nathan Rourke and Vernon Adams kind of exchanging places. But Nathan Rourke's got the job. If Nathan Rourke can put it together, it'll be a close game. But I think Edmonton can shock some people this year. I don't think they're going to be as bad as people think. So I'm going to go with my episode of the week here. I think it's going to be the Edmonton Elks beating the BC Lions. It'll be a tight game, much like last year. And again, remember, Edmonton was also in the conversation for the playoffs in the West last year. Playoffs coming under the wire. But they also lost a lot of close games too. I think they could probably win some of those close games back and possibly make a playoff run. But it starts in week 1. And it's going to be in front of a capacity crowd at BC Place, but I think the Elks can take week 1. That's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, I like that take with the Edmonton Elkamos. I mean, I'll say his name right, Cody Fajardo.
There you go.
Fajardo, like I was saying for half of the season last year. You corrected me like 6 times, and I just kept saying it. sliding in there. But yeah, it's Cody Fajardo, out there getting it done. Edmonton Elkamo's time, and they need to start this off on a hot streak because last year very similar to the Tiger Kitties. 7-11 record. Now they weren't necessarily dead last in the league, but they're also fourth in a league of in a division of 5. Okay, yeah. Because there's 9 teams in the CFL league, which makes it different. There's a lot more buys that you have to account for, and the fact that you're 4 out of 5, it still makes you kind of like in the territory of the Tiger Kitties. So, with that being said, you have a lot more to prove, and you need this win right here. I'm going with the Edmonton Elks winning this game as we look at our 4th game of the week that rounds out our first week in CFL action, with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers having the first bye here for week 1. What is your take on the Blue Bombers going into week 2, with their bye week? Do you think that this team is going to be a competitive team when we come back and discuss them next week?
I think they still will be. Zach Collaros is back. He's healthy. Brady Oliveira is back. He's healthy. I think this is going to be the last couple. This is going to be the 1 or 2 years that you're going to see this team that has been together for such a long time. This might be the last run. They've been to 5 consecutive Grey Cups, and they've won 2 of them. They lost the last 3, but this is the tail end of what was going to be one of the great runs in the modern history of the CFL. I think their outlook is good. I think they win the West. They won't win it by that much, but this team is good enough, and Mike O'Shea is a very good coach. Is a very good guy who could scout talent and put the right players on the field. So I think their outlook is good for this season. I like I said, it's the last of I think they're on the tail end of their run here, and I think they want to make the most of it, especially with the Grey Cup being in Winnipeg this season. They want to win in front of their home fans, probably as a last hurrah before guys retire or they go elsewhere. So I think the Blue Bombers' chances are very good this year of winning another Western Division title.
Solid take with them, and it'll be interesting to see how they can come back after having the first week off, as so many weeks in the CFL. It's 21 weeks, right?
Yep.
Yeah, 21 and
weeks.
the amount of buys that these teams get, and each and every week, it'd be interesting. But
you wouldn't have so many bye weeks if you had a 10th team. Come on.
But it's just like last year, where the cool thing is, once the UFL season starts, we have professional football all the way into the end of the year because, now with this being the final week of the UFL that's starting now, tonight at 8, UFL week 10, next week is the playoffs, which, the winners of those 2 games go and meet in the UFL championship. And then we have CFL all the way into the NFL season. So great time to be a football fan. If you miss the UFL, you can watch the best of the best here over the next few weeks, and then that's over. And then you have the CFL, which we just gave you the preview of. A lot of things to look at and look forward to when it comes to the world of professional football, and you can get it here on Total Football Talk. As you are here live for episode 86, we discussed much of this here in this thumbnail and many more things throughout episode 86. But with that being said, we now have taken on into the post game, going from the 2-minute drill.
Total Football Talk.
As long as it's one. That's great. I love it.
And here, coming from the 2-minute drill, going into the post game, where we discuss our final thoughts, throughout this current status in the world of professional football, whether it be the NFL rumors and things going on and stuff throughout this off season, or any other league between professional football, UFL, CFL. Mr. McCoffey, the floor is yours. The time is now. Not the last time is now, like John Cena. Because there's many more times for us to have here on this program and much more. And thank you again for taking your time out of your day and night to be here for our hour 2. look forward to it again. But with here and now, what is your take for the post game?
Our truth, man. I feel bad for that guy.
Ron
Childhood
Cena.
hero. Childhood hero, man. Beating the crap out of him. So we're going to make one correction here. McLeod Bethel-Thompson is now the backup in Montreal. I always call the law offices of McLeod Bethel-Thompson. Shout out to Two and Out CFL podcast for that. But let's start. Let me get my final thoughts here. And this is in regards to Aaron Rodgers. But I'm going to take it in a direction that you're not going to expect from my former New York Jets quarterback, formerly the New York Jets, who got told to kick rocks by Aaron Glenn. Good on him. It's not so much about Aaron Rodgers himself, but it's about the take that Joy Taylor had on Speak on FS1 this week when she talked about Aaron Rodgers missing OTAs for the Pittsburgh Steelers. She went off on him and said, "What are you doing, man? You're supposed to be there. You're supposed to be a part of the team." Problem is that Aaron Rodgers has not officially signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers, Joy Taylor. And I'll send Drew that clip a little bit later after we're done with the show. It's a classic take on complete misdirection. But before I talk, let's talk about that a little bit. It's very important to do your research before you go spouting on an opinion. And I do the same thing. Look, I make mistakes. I correct myself. I make sure to correct myself, whether on social media or the next episode. This was such an egregious mistake. And FYI, I believe this tweet is still up. This clip is still up on the Speak on FS1 website or Twitter page. This tweet is still up. This clip is still up. I don't know if she backtracked. I don't watch this show. I don't watch most mainstream sports talk shows because it's all the same thing. Just thinking for clickbait. This was one of those times where I was just astounded with two former professional athletes between them not even correcting her. Keyshawn, you had a chance to say, look, wait a second, has he even signed with the team? And the other guy, I can't remember who also is on Speak. He's a former pro athlete. I can't remember his name.
I can't.
Neither one of them. What's that?
Sid, I can't either. I'm trying to play myself.
Neither one of them in that clip corrected her. So either they don't like her and they won't want her to be on the show anymore, or they just said, you know what? Or the producer got in their ears and said, don't correct her. This is going to be a classic. Look, Joy Taylor, do the research, okay? Know the fact that Aaron Rodgers has not signed with anyone in this offseason. He's off somewhere, either on his darkness retreat, or he's in Egypt, or he's in California sitting on a beach trying to figure out what his future is, whether he has a future in the NFL this year. Do the research, get it right the first time before you spout bad opinions on the air. And by the way, Speak, that clip is still up. You might want to take that down. Although I still have it on my phone. So
what clip is this?
This was on Tuesday's edition of Speak.
Oh, you're talking about taking that clip down.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah, she isn't there still a scandal going on with her right now?
Yes, there is, but we'll talk off air about it.
Okay. Yes. For reasons understandably so. But I was wondering as such. But great take with that, especially involving a situation that there's been so much drama manifested about for not only this offseason, but the past couple off seasons. Okay. The king of drama himself. And then we got other drama that's dealing with something else that we have to talk about off there. It's just manifested into one big old stinking power. It's not even something I want to talk about. Not even Bishop Bullwinkle wants to talk about.
Hell to the no, no. Hell no, to the no.
All right, people.
You guys want to hear a fucking story?
Story is this. My turn. Great job, Mr. McCoffey. Great job with your take. It's now my time to go into ultimate promo mode out here in these streams because you bring up a great take with Aaron Rodgers, but I'm going to talk about a situation where we might even slightly go. But then when I have the opportunity to click some buttons, sometimes is that a total
surprise, motherfucker?
No, it's not. It's not surprise. But I have the opportunity to do this.
Oh, my brother, testify.
You'll testify about some things out here in the world of professional football. That's what we're going to do. Comes this right here, right now. UFL is about to come to a close. We previewed the Week 10 action that starts here in 29 minutes. The final games of the regular season. And then we're going to have some great championship football after that. Then we've got the CFL action, what Mr. McCoffey was great enough to come in here and discuss about for hour two, along with the latest in topics of the NFL. That's what we've had to discuss here and there. And thank you again to him for coming in here and discussing that with myself.
Oh, my brother, testify.
Missing my brother Cole Johnson today. And again, my heart goes out to him. Condolences out to him. And we discussed that there at the beginning of the show and looking forward to seeing him again soon and continuing discussing with him, just things in life outside of just talking about this show. The great thing about the projects that we do out here, and including with Ryan being here, we're all brothers out here in these streams. We've known each other for quite some time, but we discuss things outside of what we're even talking about here, in the green room, just life. So being able to show up here and do this for my brother Cole today and to be able to still do this and not just have him as the executive producer per se doing everything, but, kind of co-producing it along with him and, all these graphics and stuff I make. But it's nice to be able to slide in, and work with the transitions that he's made because there's a lot of these buttons out here for the transitions that I clicked that Cole has made some great stuff and great content with when it comes to the intro and the outro and all these different things we click on. And, it's still nice to be able to slide in and out and to be able to share this platform known as Total Football Talk and share it with you, the people out here that make it interesting between multi-platforms, whether you're watching it live or if you're watching it, in the replay, whether it be on X, which X, I wish you would stop charging us to use the streaming service on there, but we'll talk about that another time. This is Football Action. But the other platforms between YouTube and Twitch and LinkedIn and Facebook and all the stuff like TikTok and Instagram that we're working within as well. Thank you for helping a small space like ourselves grow into something that has a decent amount of viewership, at least in my opinion, for the short amount of time that has been available on the airwaves. It wouldn't be possible without those of you who click the like button, who click the share button, who also are the ones who are subscribing and promoting us within to your friends or whoever to click that subscribe button to help us out with the algorithm to get more views each and every week. It's an up and down battle, but that's just how it goes out here. And we understand it, but we're having fun. That's all that matters. And it's all about the guests that we have, the interaction that we have with the live chat, as well as the comments that we have when it's in the replay that we can still respond to outside of the live streams and the content that's made, like the shorts and the short little video clips and all that stuff that come about it. It's fun. And I wanted to take this time to be able to just express how I feel with you guys with that as we are here nearing 100 episodes of this program, as well as several episodes of extra that Mr. McCoffey, has been generous with this time and looking forward to working out some more discussions of the CFL season with him and getting him back on here, or if we have to do another spinoff series of extra. However it happens, we've got to discuss CFL because we've now started a thing, and if we can make it happen each week, we got to keep it going. And for those of you out there who either care or don't care about the CFL, just want to watch us say what we got to say because you're going to get something entertaining at some point. You're going to get a promo where I might even have to go get the belt before we go off the air of me with the belt. You know what? Actually, I don't even have to do that because it reminds me of one thing I need to do. I need to promote one thing that's going to happen in 2 days, something that hasn't happened in quite some time. D. Willie in the Evening, episode 34 is back live.
Hey.
episode 34, the Thank You Kyle Nash episode at 9:05 p.m. Eastern time. We've got some big news regarding Kyle Nash, the elevation of him, and we'll discuss it on the episode. But unfortunately, the content that he creates within his Duval Dive podcast that he's been streaming on Sartoba Media each and every Wednesday for a couple years now, since the YouTube platform started, since we started it all. It's been a big staple for my platform each and every week. He's got a contract now for it, and it's not going to be available for other platforms now. So very similar with what you have, with work you've done. Like, you can only have certain things, sharing one YouTube channel, and the only one that he can have with that show is because the channel that he has is named the Duval Dive. So that's the only YouTube channel he can have. Very similar with, you can speak up for that, because I know that you've got the same situation.
Yep, with Belly Up Sports. Yep.
So, when it comes to that, and hopefully, I can join the club at some point with some other content, and maybe with Cole at some point, because I feel like we've built something great here. This will be my thank you to Kyle Nash episode. The student of the game will still be available on Sartoba Media. He'll still have that when he brings that back, but right now he's focusing on the Duval Dive, which he'll talk more about that on this episode, and I'll have some clips of some things, and it'll be a remembrance of Kyle Nash and the time that he had. Although he won't be around every single week with content, he'll still be able to pop in and out here and there. And I wish Kyle nothing but the best. And I approve of it. I love it. And just like I told him, I'm happy for him. And just like he's helped me out with my platform and with other things as well, if any point when he gets the opportunity, I already know he's going to look out for me at some point. And those like yourself, that he knows that, can help each other out here with this type of work. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to what he does in the future with all that stuff. But taking the time post game is basically where I'm at with that. So when it comes to the post game, I didn't really have much football related to talk about in this one, but I did have those to clear off while we had the little bit of airtime. Mr. McCoffey being here, hopefully you could tune in for the Thank You Kyle Nash episode this Sunday at 9:05 p.m. Eastern time, only on Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. Mr. McCoffey, would you like to tell the viewers where they can find you at before we get on out of here?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, or X, where you want to call it, Facebook, Instagram at WhoIsRyanMCC. No credentials required. We're on tonight. We're actually on in a little under 20 minutes for our no credentials required happy hour. So after I'm done here, I got to boogie on out, take care of some kitties at my brother's house, and then jump on again with no credentials required. So that's at 8 o'clock. I'm going to push up to 8:15 just because it's because I have to do it. But we'll be talking with we're talking about sports. So Tuesdays at 6:30 Eastern, replays on the Belly Up YouTube channel and podcast wherever you find podcasts. And I'm happy to be a part of Total Football Talk on the extra side when we discuss the CFL season starting next week, which will be fun.
Well, thanks again, brother. I appreciate it. You taking the time to be in here. Sorry to keep you a little bit over to delay your other show, but it was definitely worth it. We got some people tuning in now, coming in towards the end, but they can definitely check the replay of the past 2 hours, in the hour that I had before you and the hour that I had a little bit over with you. So with all that being said, we've got only one more thing to do, is send Mr. McCoffey on out of here the right way. Mr. McCoffey definitely was a great guest here on episode 86 of Total Football Talk. We got 2 more things we got to cover here before we get on out of here, and that is where you can find Cole. You can find Cole at this flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson, my co-host that you find here each and every week, except for this one, which deservingly so, he needs that time off. I would if I were him as well, but you can find him at flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. Then myself, you can find myself at cash.app/dwilly, Instagram.com/Sartoba Media, and of course the X one. You got Facebook, TikTok as well, and of course there at the bottom, underneath the Facebook, you've got the TikTok and the YouTube, where you're currently watching. Most of you are watching right now on the YouTube channel, currently live since Mr. Coffee streams have just not ended. But for myself, we've only got one more thing left to do before we sign on out of here between Comey Media and Sertoba Media's platforms out here, is look at one awesome outro between myself, Roland Solo, out here in these streams. Sorry, there it is. Had to get myself back on up here with that one since Mr. Coffee rolled out. But for this episode right here, it's definitely been a fun one as we discussed many things within this thumbnail and more for episode 86 of Total Football Talk. I've only got one more thing basically to tell you before one more thing of showing you. And that when it comes to being out here in these streets, when it comes to playing football, when it comes to life, like my man Cole says, keep your head up. And remember, you got to keep playing until the whistle blows. And for myself, that I always tell you, each and every single week, as always, please, until Sunday when I see you again, hopefully, on Sertoba Media. Come on back now, 9:05 p.m. Eastern now, y'all. Please, as always, stay safe out here in these streets and these streams. Thanks again, everybody. See you all next time.